Commander Zethkar of the Valdorian Defense Fleet had always considered humans to be the galaxy's most curious contradiction. Their skin could be punctured by the simplest of projectiles, their bones snapped under pressures that would barely inconvenience a Valdorian child, and their atmospheric requirements were so narrow that a minor variance in oxygen levels would leave them gasping like dying fish. Yet somehow these fragile creatures had carved out a respectable niche in galactic society through sheer audacity and an inexplicable talent for making friends with species that should have rightfully crushed them underfoot. Structural integrity at 12% and falling, announced Lieutenant Vexith from her station aboard the Dreadnought Ironscale. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 15. We're losing atmosphere fast. The asteroid field of Kepler 442 had been a routine patrol zone until the hegemony pirates decided to make it their hunting ground. What should have been a simple sweep and clear operation had turned into a nightmare when the pirates revealed their new weapon, some sort of gravitic disruptor that had torn through the Ironscale's molecular shields like they were made of tissue, paper. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in frustration as another explosion rocked the ship. His crew of 200 Valdorians were some of the toughest beings in known space, their chitinous exoskeletons capable of withstanding the vacuum of space. For short periods, their redundant organ systems ensuring survival even under catastrophic damage. But even they had limits. Engineering reports massive plasma conduit failures, Vexith continued, her voice steady despite the chaos. Artificial gravity failing on multiple decks. And sir, we've lost contact with the human liaison team on Deck 9. The human team. Zethkar had protested their inclusion in this mission from the beginning. 3 humans, a structural engineer named Sarah Chen, a medic called Marcus Rivera, and some sort of disaster response specialist who went by the improbable name of Jake Morrison. The Galactic Council's new integration initiative required mixed crews, but putting humans on a combat vessel seemed like administrative madness. Time to evacuation? Zethkar demanded. 18 minutes before total structural collapse, came the reply. But sir, the evacuation pods on decks 7 through 12 are inaccessible due to hull breaches. We've got 43 crew members trapped in that section. 43 Valdorians, each one worth a dozen humans in terms of raw durability and strength, trapped like larvae in a collapsing hive. The irony wasn't lost on him. This is Chen to bridge. The voice crackled through the damaged communications array, barely audible over the static. We've reached the trapped crew on Deck 9. Zethkar felt his secondary heart skip. Human Chen, evacuate immediately. That section is compromised. Negative, Commander. We've got injured here, and the corridor to the evacuation pods is blocked by a collapsed support beam. Looks like about 3 tons of compressed duralloy. Gonna need some time to figure this out. 3 tons. Even a fully grown Valdorian would struggle with half that weight, and these humans were barely larger than children. Understood. Fall back to a safe distance and— Jake's already assessing the beam structure, Chen interrupted. Marcus is treating the wounded. We've got this handled. The communication cut to static, and Zethkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans hadn't retreated. Of course they hadn't. 14 minutes passed in a blur of damage reports and increasingly desperate evacuation procedures. The Ironscale was dying around them, her proud hull splitting like an overripe fruit under the stress of cascading system failures. Then the impossible happened. Bridge, this is Chen. We've got all 43 crew members moving toward evacuation pod 7. ETA 2 minutes. How? Zethkar began. Jake rigged a leverage system using damaged conduits and some cable from the engineering stocks. Chen's voice was breathless but triumphant. Basic physics, Commander. Even we fragile humans understand force multiplication. Through the bridge viewports, Zethkar watched as evacuation pod after evacuation pod launched. From the dying vessel, the final pod, Pod 7, ejected just as the Ironscale's reactor containment failed, turning the proud dreadnought into an expanding cloud of superheated plasma and twisted metal. In the rescue ship's medical bay an hour later, Zethkar found the human team tending to injured Valdorians with a competence that bordered on the supernatural. Rivera was grafting synthetic chitin to damaged exoskeletons with steady hands, while Chen reviewed structural repair protocols on a datapad. Morrison sat in the corner, apparently asleep, but Zethkar could see the man's eyes tracking every movement in the room. "Your species confuses me," Zethkar admitted, approaching Chen. "By every metric, you should have been the first to die when the ship began failing." Chen looked up from her datapad, her small mammalian features creased in what Zethkar had learned to recognize as amusement. "Commander, you're thinking about it wrong. Sure, we're fragile. We can't survive in vacuum. We can't regenerate lost limbs, and a good sneeze from one of your people could probably break our ribs." She gestured toward the recovering Valdorians. "But being fragile means we've had to get creative. We've had to learn to think our way out of problems that other species could just muscle through. When you're made of meat and bad decisions, you either get smart or you get dead." Morrison stirred in his corner. "Plus," he added without opening his eyes, "fragile things learn to fix other fragile things. We've been pulling each other out of wreckage since we lived in caves. It's kind of our thing." Zethkar considered this as he watched Rivera carefully adjust a Valdorian's damaged breathing apparatus, equipment that should have been impossible for human hands to manipulate. Yet the medic worked with the precision of a master craftsman. Perhaps, the commander mused, there were different kinds of strength. The Valdorians had evolved armor and redundancy to survive their harsh world. Humans, it seemed, had evolved something far more dangerous: the stubborn refusal to let anyone die on their watch, and the intelligence to make good on that promise. As the rescue ship carried them toward the nearest starbase, Zethkar made a note to recommend the Human Integration Program for expansion. After all, every fleet could use a few specialists who understood that sometimes the most fragile things were also the most unbreakable. The galaxy, he realized, was about to learn what humans had always known. It's not the size of the creature in the fight, but the size of the fight in the creature that matters. And humans, those impossibly fragile beings, had more fight per kilogram than any species had a right to possess.